What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday night to everybody except for Jack Eichel. This is Busy Six, the Geekiverse's all video game talk show. We're trying out a Friday night here. Hope that you are having a wonderful start to your weekend. Thanks for spending the start of it with us at twitch.tv/the Geekiverse. I'm Josiah Leroy, as always, with me, Mr. Baba Yaga, John Fick. John, how's your Friday going?
I figured I didn't think we would talk any hockey, but then I realized, the name of our podcast is a pun on hockey. So you know what? We can do it. We're a hockey town. It's Buffalo. Jack Eichel. No bueno. No bueno.
No bueno. That was tough to get through, but man, was it worth it.
It was a fun night.
It was a great night. It was super exciting as a Sabres fan. Honestly, I felt dread the whole night. I thought he was going to come back, score the tying goal and or the winner, in overtime, shootout, you name it. There was going to be something where Jack Eichel was going to steal the show, but he was kind of invisible except for on that last play of the game where Tuck steals the puck from him in that empty net situation.
Seemed pretty invisible to Tuck.
Yeah, he blew right by him, dude. Oh my gosh. Well, we're not salty at all. Derek in the chat, it's great. We've got a little bit of closure here, so thank you for that. If you can't tell, we like three things here. We like video games, we like beer, and we like hockey. So we've got a little bit of a trifecta here tonight. We're going to really steer clear of hockey for the rest of the show. But again, thanks for joining us. Again, you can watch any of our content after the fact at youtube.com/the Geekiverse or listen on podcast services around the globe, wherever you download podcasts. On this episode of Busy Sticks, we've got a bunch of news to get to. We learned a bit more about the Dead Space Remake's exciting new systems, plus a new release window. We've got a Gotham Knights release date. Yeah! And we've got a PlayStation State of Play to catch up on. Oh, don't believe it. More to follow on that. But as I mentioned, we don't just like video games here. Almost as important as what you're playing is what's about to be in our system. John, I'm going to give it to you first. What are you pulling up aside your gaming console aside from this show here? What are you going to be drinking?
I think you could have guessed this one. So I made a little trip out to Froth tonight. We're right here on St. Patrick's Day weekend, and I got myself the Liquid Charms.
I'm so jealous right now.
This is from Froth. So what do they call this thing? Triple fruited sour ale. Certainly not sour. Pink guava, raspberry, blueberry, strawberry, and cereal marshmallows. So they've used marshmallow in their beers before, but they literally used the cereal marshmallows from Lucky Charms to make this one, to sweeten this one. I did have it at the brewery already. I was there earlier today. It's very interesting. I'll show you guys the color. It is green. It is very.
Lucky Charms is my favorite cereal. I gotta say, love it to death. So that is why, oh my gosh, that looks amazing to me. I gotta ask you, how is the texture there? I'm sure we'll see it in a second. Like, is this
it's
thicker
thick.
than usual?
It's not thicker than usual. Think of it's very similar to one of their. It's a little greener in person. I think you're getting a little bit more blue. It's a blue green, but it's a little bit greener in person than what you're seeing coming through right there.
It doesn't look as milkshakey as some of them have been.
It's pretty thick.
Smoothie.
It is up there. It's up there with the smoothie, the thick ones. I will say that it is not. I can't taste the cereal aspect of it at all. I taste marshmallow, but there's nothing to distinguish them. Like you eat a marshmallow and then you eat a cereal marshmallow. There's a difference there. Like they have a different taste. They have a different texture. There's not much of that here. Not much of that here.
All right. So, but would you good overall?
Oh yeah, it's good beer. Yeah, if you like these fruited, sour, milkshake style, super, super heavy smoothie like beers, you're going to love it. Yeah. All those fruits that I named plus marshmallow, how do you go wrong?
Courtney says her favorite is also Lucky Charms. Courtney, I knew we would be friends. That's a wonderful thing. For me, because I kind of figured where John was going, I also had to match it. And plus, I don't want this sitting in my fridge too long, at risk of explosion.
Can be dangerous.
But I've got another liquid lollipop here from Froth. This one, apple peach caramel.
Okay, so, that must be from the fall.
I picked probably, but I did buy it
recently,
like 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay.
This one at first, I would say I was a little disappointed in. Now, when I say I'm disappointed, I really like just about everything Froth does.
It's a high bar.
Yes, it's like when people say you don't like that pizza, but it's still pizza. To me, that's a little bit Froth. So this one kind of looks like the same texture, so to speak, as the one that John just showed. Got my baby mall glass here, from glass to mouth.
Cheers, brother.
And cheers, my friend. This one is the more I've kind of sat on it and let this stew, the better I found it. Where I'm finding all the hints there of apple, peach, and caramel. That's a tough thing to mix, but it's pretty good. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'm gonna pass it over to you because I think it's your week for show and tell as well.
It is my week for show and tell. Speaking of beer, though, I finally did make my my Busy Sticks Untapped list. So if you do follow me on Untapped, I think my name's Disruptoid on Untapped. You can probably just search my name too. But I do have a list of every beer that I have had on Busy Sticks so far. Because if you didn't know, we try to have a new beer every week and not repeat those beers. We may have had them before, like I had this earlier in the day. And I've had a couple of beers on the show that I've had before. But I try to bring a new beer to the show every week at least. And yeah, that list is now active.
I'm doing the same thing. You can. We didn't determine if you could search for those, but mine says Busy Sticks - Josiah. I've got the list of everything I've had on our episodes so far, which is pretty freaking cool. I think we're gonna post the links in the descriptions of the episodes from now on. So when we do this on YouTube or the podcast version, you'll see that right in there. You can click that; it'll take you right there. You can find out more about the beer, the brewery that sells it, and really what it's made of. So yeah. Thanks for saying that, John. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no problem. But yes, show and tell. So each week we like to do a little segment here called show and tell, show off something maybe new to us, something that is timely topic-wise with the news or something like that. Maybe a new game came out that we want to talk about, and we have that physical copy, controller, something like that. This week I have something pretty special. So I just moved into my new house. My wife and I have been here for about a week and a half, just about 2 weeks here. Finally getting settled in. One of the projects is of course, the home office. I work from home quite a bit. We do this as a side gig. We put a lot of time into the content we make here. So having a nice home office is important to me. And I've been working on that, these past 2 weeks, getting things up and running. My good friend and friend of the show, Kyle, has provided me with an awesome housewarming gift. And this is just absolutely killer for my desk. It is this bad boy right here.
Get out of here. Oh my gosh.
Isn't that so cool?
That's amazing.
So for audio listeners, it's a 3D printed block letters in the Mario style. It says my gamer tag Disruptoid. So it's just like, it's perfectly 3D printed, like super high quality 3D print. Like there's like, sometimes you see like, people had to sand some stuff down because they had like a lesser quality 3D printer. This thing is just absolutely awesome. So it's in like the Super Mario block letters, all the different colors. It says Disruptoid and it sits right on top of my PC case. It is so freaking cool.
Kyle, that is amazing, man. Well done.
Isn't it killer?
Oh my gosh. That's so cool, dude. You'll have that forever, let alone
100%.
When we're streaming or we have shows. Always have that on hand or in the background. That's so cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
Awesome. So yeah, Kyle, thank you so much for that. I've been wanting to show people that forever, but I wanted to let it make its debut on the show because that's that's only what's right. Kyle's an awesome. He's a good friend, but he's also a huge supporter of the show. He watches all the time. He always sends me a picture of himself chilling and watching us on the big screen. So I felt it was only right to show that for show and tell for sure.
Dude, that is so awesome. Yeah, Kyle, I can't put it into words. Really exciting stuff there. And we always appreciate you tuning in. So, community question of the week. Last week, we asked, what is your favorite Nintendo Switch game? We had the 5-year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch, as well as Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So we thought it was a good time to do that. I had a few responses on my personal social media. I had Dave Hamilton say, my son and I play Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 enough to make my wife crazy. Love that. Thanks for writing in, Dave. Rashawn Anderson, the former Platinum King. I'm coming for you. Breath of the Wild. Great pick, obviously. Jesse Powers. He says he bought the Switch that came with Smash Ultimate, so that's my favorite. We had Luke write in and say, this is going to sound basic as F, but probably Pokemon Legends Arceus.
That's a good one. That's not basic. I think that's that's a recent one, but I think that maybe in a couple of years, a lot of people might have that on their list here because that's a game changer for Pokemon fans.
I would say so too. Like you can't go wrong with that. John, you had some from our community as well.
Mine is just an overwhelming amount of Breath of the Wild. So we've got our good buddy Mike, Tank Newton, Breath of the Wild. Danny Mears on Twitter has to say Breath of the Wild. It's a console's definitive game in his opinion. It's tough to argue with Breath of the Wild, a game that shipped day one with this thing and made such an impact. Got so many people like myself and yourself into Zelda for the first time. Maybe one day you'll finish the game. I absolutely adored it. It's one of my favorite games of all time, if not my favorite game of all time. So it was certainly a pretty special game on this console, but surprisingly not my answer for this question.
Mine neither. So also I wanted to shout out, I want to say on the Geekiverse Facebook, Frank Z. He had an awesome write-up. He gave us so much. I think he gave us his top 10. He gave
honorable mentions.
His thought process. It was really nice. So if you can go check us out at facebook.com/thegeekiverse, scroll down a little bit, you'll find that post. Thought it was really nice. So Frank, thank you for the interaction that we had there. John, what's your answer to that question? Your favorite Switch game?
Yeah, so there's different ways to look at that question, right? Because I think my favorite Switch game is Breath of the Wild. Like that's a Switch exclusive. I think of the Switch. I think of my favorite game on the Switch. It's Breath of the Wild. But when we were talking about this question, we were kind of reflecting on the fifth anniversary of the Switch. I was more so thinking of my favorite experience I had with the console. So what is like the most memorable experience? And while Zelda might still be the answer to that, I have one that's a little bit more, I don't know, just stands out quite a bit. You got the answer, you know?
Can I spill the beans?
Go for it, absolutely.
Cuphead?
It's Cuphead. It is Cuphead.
Yeah.
And the reason it's Cuphead is because Cuphead was a game that I bought for the Xbox when it first came out. It was an Xbox exclusive. You can only play it on the Xbox One back then. And I played it and I appreciated it and I loved the art style and the music. And it was a really difficult game. And I love platformers and I love the grind and I love the gameplay loop of platformers of, you know, failing and trying again and failing and trying again. But for some reason, Cuphead I just wasn't getting better at, and I just got frustrated and I just let it go. And I'm like, you know what? That's a game I'll always get back to. And then the Switch came out. Then the pandemic hit. And it just happened to be like this perfect storm. I'm locked in the house for 2 weeks, and I'm already starting to go stir crazy. I got my Switch here. My wife's got the TV. She's watching TV, so like, you know, I don't necessarily have access to it all the time. And I got my Switch in my lap. I want to try to do something. And for whatever reason, I'm like, Cuphead just came to the Switch a couple weeks ago, months ago, whenever it was. I'm going to buy that, and I'm going to commit to playing Cuphead, and I'm going to beat this game. And I did that. And I sat there, and it took me like 4 or 5 days, and that's all I was doing. I was working, I was eating, and I was playing Cuphead. And I was just grinding through that game. And it was just me and the Switch for like like I said, however many days it was, less than a week. And it's all I remember is just sitting there on the ground, which I never do for some reason. I was just on the ground playing my Switch like a kid, just getting better at Cuphead. And that game is just so special. And the reason it stands out so much for the Switch is because the Switch is what, like, the form factor is what made that experience happen. The handheld, it's just like such an intimate experience. It's just me and this stupid game in front of my face, and I'm not putting it down until I beat the game. I said this before; it's like super dramatic, but when I beat Cuphead, I almost felt the same way I did when I graduated college. I graduated college and I got my transcript and I got to see every class that I accomplished, every class that I was able to pass and get a good grade in to earn my degree. And that's the same way it was when I beat Cuphead. They show you all the bosses and I'm like, I beat that one. I remember how hard that was. I beat that one. I thought I was never going to get past that one. That stupid dragon. I'm like, I was never going to beat that thing. I finally did. And then I beat every single boss in the game. So there's just something super special about beating Cuphead, and I'll always tie that to the Switch. So Breath of the Wild might be right there neck and neck, but we had so many of that answer. I wanted to give a different take on it.
Dude, that's saying a lot. I remember when you were playing that, and it seemed like it was longer to me than that. But I mean, I digress. What I do remember is you commenting in the Buffalo Game Geeks group when you beat it. It was basically, I did it. I effing did it. And I was like, holy, wow. Geez, that's crazy because this game is so difficult. But that was an exciting time. I remember you sharing that. If you're on the chat and twitch.tv/thegeekiverse, let us know what is your favorite Switch game of all time to date. John, do you know mine? I think you could probably fathom a good guess.
Oh, I haven't thought about it. Yeah, I think I have the answers. Mario Odyssey?
Yeah. Super Mario Odyssey. That game, for whatever, I've talked about it on the show before. I mean, I love the game itself, but it just came out at such a good time for me. Like, I associate a lot of media, whether that is a TV show or a video game. I associate those with different times in my life. I'll be like, oh, I remember I started that job the same month Star Wars came out and this and that. But with Odyssey, it was 2017. Geekiverse was just on a hot streak. We had just gone to E3. We had a crazy successful Nickel City Con. We had all these things going for us that were just humongous at the time. And in the midst of all that, Super Mario Odyssey, one of the first big games I played on the Switch, obviously, that had just come out a few months prior. And I had fond memories from E3 because Cappy was everywhere. You could buy it, you could get it if you got invited to the showcase. There was a lot going on that was exciting. And for me, that's a game that always stuck out, and I'd like to go back and replay it at some point. Kind of hard to believe that the 5th anniversary is coming up. I want a sequel to that. I want a direct sequel to that game. I think it's the right time. Get it done. Get it out there. It was much like when Super Mario Galaxy got a sequel. I think that it's the right time to do it. So let's go, Nintendo. That's my answer, though. Super Mario Odyssey.
Also, go ahead.
Shout out to Chris in the chat. Finally got the Switch OLED.
Yes. So I notoriously I'm always out and about on my lunch breaks. I work from home, so I'm always like trying to get out of the house on my lunch breaks. So I'm always walking around Target or Best Buy or whatever just to like move my legs and get out. The OLED has been in stock the last couple of weeks, or I guess maybe the last like week and a half. Every time I'm at Target, there's a bunch of OLED, so it's a good thing, good sign for consoles. Hopefully, the OLED Switch and the Xbox Series S, they're everywhere right now. So you can get your hands on consoles. It's nice. Maybe not the Series X or the PS5 still, but there's stuff out there, which is good.
I did share that with someone who their brother still has not gotten their hands on a PS5, like many people. And I said, you know what? This doesn't necessarily mean that this is an indication of things to come, but you couldn't get the Switch OLED for a while, and now you can. Yep. Even the Series S on the Xbox was hard to find for a while, but that's been everywhere recently. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's a little bit of a chip in the wall there. We'll see what happens in the next few months, especially as we get towards the holiday season, 6-7 months from now, in that fall season when all the sales are going on. Black Friday is right around the corner. Be interesting to see if we're going to have PS5s and Xbox Series X available.
It is going to be
tough so far.
Yeah, we're going to be creeping on 2 years this holiday season, so let's hope we can get those in stock. I do have another anecdote about Mario Odyssey as well. So like you mentioned that video games really relate to like a place and time for you. Same thing for me. That was my story with Cuphead, but also similar. Mario Odyssey. When I first moved into my first apartment, my then girlfriend, not even fiance at the time, now wife, we were moving into an apartment together. It happened to be the same weekend that Mario Odyssey came out. And we had to have our Verizon Fios come to be installed and some other service. Maybe I think actually our washer and dryer were being delivered from Best Buy. So those two things were happening on a Friday, and they both gave us like two radically different windows. So I just took the day off of work. I'm like, okay, Fios says like 8 a.m. to noon, and washer and dryer says like 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So like they can come literally whatever. So I'm just taking the day off of work, and it was literally an empty apartment. So I'm like, okay, well Mario Odyssey came out. I'm bringing a chair. I'm sitting in an empty living room, and I'm just playing Mario Odyssey all day, and that's what I did. But that was like that just 12 straight hours basically of playing Mario Odyssey, letting the guys in to put it in the internet and stuff like that, but just like in an empty apartment, celebrating just, finally having it in my own place and playing that game nonstop. So there's my little story for that game.
That's a really nice memory. Also, how dare you use the F word on this show? I miss Fios so bad.
It is
so bad, everybody.
Certainly
when
a blessing.
You're from a country like me, you gotta go with Spectrum, sons of bitches. Well, I have another. Just real quick before we move on, if we're talking about nostalgia and kind of tying these memories in, I believe I mentioned it on the show, but Breath of the Wild was so special that midnight release. Is John and I have kind of reminisced. We want to go to those again. But my wife and I, Lauren, we were in Amherst, which is where we picked up the Switch and Breath of the Wild at that Best Buy at Niagara Falls Boulevard. If you're in Western New York,
that's where your Series X came from too.
Yes, it is very true. That's where we got the Switch, and it was funny because we passed by, and I was like, oh, man, Lord. About 5 years ago, we were waiting here at midnight, and little did you know that was going to be a system that you would put hundreds of hours into in a game called Animal Crossing.
That's so funny. That is so funny.
Oh, man. And now my daughter really runs the roost on this one. It's the original Switch. Lauren's got the Switch Lite. I've got the OLED, so we've got 3 in our house. My daughter plays that Peppa Pig game like there's no tomorrow. She's put over 30 hours in it. So if you see awesome. On my name 30 hours, it's not me. I'm not playing the Peppa Pig video game.
Great cover story.
I may play it with her, but man, she loves it, and it's fun. It's great that she gets to pick that up while I'm playing Horizon or you name it. Speaking of which, I did gloss over this, so I made a mistake. we talked about what's in our system with beer. What's in our system with PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo? John, what have you been playing lately?
Yeah, so I wish I still need to get more time in Horizon. I did play more since the last time we talked. That's been about a week here. I probably put about 4 or 5 more hours into it. I'm getting there. I'm doing more side quests. I've just been at the point where like the next quest is like 4 or 5 levels higher than I am, and I don't want to go into it underpowered. So I've just been grinding away side quests, and then I finally did do that one quest that I was like at that point maybe 1 or 2 levels behind, and I beat that. So I'm getting the story along. I'm loving it. The game's absolutely gorgeous. The gameplay is just amazing. I'm still waiting for the story to pick up to where I know it's going to. I've watched all the reviews. I know this game's incredible. It's getting 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s. People are loving this game, so I know the story is going to pick up. I'm still waiting for that to happen in my playthrough. I know it will. I just got to commit more time to it. I mentioned I moved into this new house, just got my new office set up. With that came a nice new PC. My first time having like a nice beefy gaming PC, which I mostly bought for content creation, not really for gaming, but I've got it. So I want to play with it, right? It's a new tech toy. I want to see what it can do. So I've got Xbox Game Pass because I have my Series X, so I already have Game Pass Ultimate. So I've downloaded Jedi Fallen Order. Been playing that on the PC a little bit. That's a lot of fun. And then just yesterday, Guardians of the Galaxy. That came out to Game Pass too. So I've been playing those 2 games. Those are just incredible. My two of my favorite properties of all time with Star Wars and Marvel. Probably my 2 favorite IP of all time, period, with Star Wars and Marvel. So just super cool to have both those on Game Pass, and just 2 of my favorite games in the last couple of years. Just really, really good stuff just to be able to play with a new toy here. So that's what I've been doing. That's been taking me away from my Horizon gameplay is just toying around with this PC for the most part. Stim packs, Derek, don't go there.
Oh, you took up some talk about salty. Yeah, John, you're a man after my own heart there with Jedi Fallen Order and Guardians. How have they looked overall? Like, have you noticed a big difference from when you played them on console?
Dude, PCs are weird, man. So inconsistent. Like, I'm running Jedi Fallen Order and Guardians at max settings, and they look great, and they're running at like super awesome frame rates, and like it's handling it. I've got, for people who are into PC stuff, I've got an AMD Ryzen 5, and I have a NVIDIA 3060 in here. So like it's a decent computer. It's relatively high end at this point. It's like I would say on par, if not a little bit better than the new consoles. But the new consoles still seem to run certain stuff better. Like I boot up Fortnite on this thing, and like this Series X and PS5 blow it out of the water in terms of like the performance for fidelity factor. So it's just like it's weird. Certain games run great, and certain games just run okay. But those 2 have run really good. I've been able to crank up the settings, get my ray tracing, my NVIDIA DLSS, like all the fancy PC stuff I've got running, and they look good.
All right. I like to hear that.
Just to come back around to the whole PC thing, put a bow on it. Having a PC has made me appreciate the consoles even more. Just to know like all the toying around I've had to do with settings to get these games right. The fact that some of them are inconsistent. The fact that this thing is more than twice the price of those 2 consoles. You can buy both of those consoles for less than I paid for this PC. And those things just work, and most games run better than this PC that I have here. Man, these current gen, next gen, whatever you want to call it at this point in the cycle, those are so impressive. And this having this beast of a PC has just made me appreciate them even more, which is crazy.
Dude, I love to hear that. I've never been a PC guy myself. It's not because I don't want to. It's just I've been a console guy, so it makes me feel a little bit better, I guess, when it comes to the PS5 and Series X. Derek, we said already here, mentioned stim packs regarding Jedi Fallen Order. If you go way back, we're talking solid 2.5 years now. We did a spoiler cast for Jedi Fallen Order, and some of us finished the game well undermanned, like just way farther than we should have been. Made life a lot more difficult. I did the same thing with Metroid Dread.
Oh no.
I kind of just got by. After a while, I was like, all right, I'm not going to make this mistake anymore. I'm going to beef up for the final boss. But the thing was, I read that the final boss was not as difficult as some of the mid-game bosses, which turned out to be true. So I struck a better chord than I did, say, on Jedi Fallen Order. But it was creeping in my head, man. I was like, stim packs. But yeah. So for me, what's in my system? Of course, Horizon Forbidden Dawn. I've got a few more hours in. I'm probably around... Forbidden West. I am 14 to 15 hours in now. So I can't really say where that is in the story to tell people, but been doing a lot of side missions because I want to level up as much as I possibly can. I want to stay out in front of it. This is a game I do want to platinum, so I'm really not cutting corners to a degree, but it is really fun. And again, this is a game that has had engagement in my house. Lauren will sit down and be like, "What's that? What's the background on that?" Like, there's general interest there that is typically not there on a lot of games. So enjoying that. I gotta say, the combat it feels way better to me than the first game.
Interesting.
I don't know that it's actually upgraded that much, but it just feels so much better. I feel like I have a game plan for most things most encounters that I'm going into. I like the upgrade system. All of it's been clean yet very detailed, and it doesn't cut corners either. So I've enjoyed that. I've also enjoyed the grapple for what I've had so far. That makes some of the traversal a lot easier. So little improvements there have made this game even better. It's like when we went from Arkham Asylum to Arkham City. You made a good game even better. We did the same thing here with the first Horizon going into Forbidden West. Also been playing Breath of the Wild. I told you I restarted that a few weeks back. Kind of an interesting thing juggling these two big games, but so far so good. It's kind of the game that I'm playing when I've got Nora on my lap and kind of can't free myself up as much. And when I've got the TV, I've been playing Horizon. So the question of this week, we want you to get involved, whether that's on our Twitch or Facebook or Twitter. But happy belated Mario Day. That just happened yesterday. Of course, March 10th spells out Mario. What's your favorite all-time Mario game? Lots and lots of quality games to choose from. We'd love to hear from you. Again, what is your favorite all-time Mario game?
Very interested to see the balance between 2D and 3D games that we get, because to me, like they're completely different games. 2D Mario games and 3D Mario games are like it's kind of crazy that they're both the same IP and like game. Obviously, it's the same characters and stuff like that, but they're very different. So I'm curious to see what kind of wins, the 3D or 2D.
Yeah, I very curious to see that. I'm curious to see where sometimes there's an age breakdown to say, oh, I grew up with the original, or I grew up with some of the games like on the Wii. Like there's a lot of differences when it comes to generations of gaming there. So I'll be very excited to see that play out. I'm sure we'll have a wide gamut of games listed on our social media.
Yep.
Getting into some of the news here. Headliner for me today, Dead Space Remake. By the way, I've not talked much about Dead Space in our time at the Geekiverse because not much Dead Space has gone on. I'm very, very much looking forward to this game. Dead Space, the trilogy itself, I enjoyed so much. Even the third game to a degree. But 1 and 2 are just masterpieces when it comes to the horror genre. Anyway, today we got a little bit of a new look at it in one of the new systems where they're teasing the sound system. So essentially, as Isaac Clarke, as your character gets fatigued, as he gets injured, or if he's healthy, how he delivers lines it's basically going to play off of that. So he's recording all these lines, all these different ways, which I think is kind of unique. You don't see a lot of this in gaming. You get a lot of visuals when someone's hurt, but you don't hear it from an audio standpoint. And the audio standpoint to me really plays on the idea of fear. This is going to be audio is such an important sense when it comes to playing a scary video game. So to see that play out, plus I cannot remember what they're calling it, but there's basically going to be a new system where you can shoot off different bits of skin and limbs on the necromorphs, the alien creatures that are the antagonists in this game. So they're really doing a deep dive on this. But today we've got other news with the game that it's also now slated to come out early next year. The team over at EA Motive, who did some of the fine work on Star Wars Battlefront 2, they noted that they do have a specific release date in mind. They're confident they can hit it, but they don't want to reveal it just yet, which I really applaud, because how many times do we get into trouble when we say this game's coming out on this day and then we miss it all completely? John, did you play any of the Dead Space games when they originally came out?
Nope, not a single second. Something I was always kind of interested in, but I haven't touched. So with a new remaster, I'm interested for sure.
You have jumped into the Resident Evil remakes a little bit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I played 2.
And that was probably the same thing, right? Didn't play those when they first came out. Granted, we were a lot younger when those original games came out, but I find it interesting that we're seeing a little bit of a similar pattern here, where we're trying to remake a game like Dead Space. And I think it's a perfect time for it. That first game came out 2008, I want to say. So in the third game came out in 2012 or 2013. So it's been a good long time, and it's what better time to reinvigorate this franchise, seeing the success of those Resident Evil remakes. I'm so excited for this game, especially to get an updated take on all of it. Also, for the listeners at home, if you played the original Dead Space, they are not just remaking that story. They're going to largely stick to it, but they're going to bring in other elements from some of the sequels there that lead on basically a better story path, because those were not necessarily planned. Much like the Star Wars sequel trilogy, which we'll get to at another show.
For some reason, when I was back in that 360 PS3 era, I always confused or just didn't really know the difference between Dead Space and Mass Effect. Those were all just two trilogies that were out there that I knew people really liked. I just never touched them. I could not have told you the difference between Dead Space and Mass Effect back then. Now I understand that they're very different games, but yeah.
Two very different IPs for sure, yes. But I love them all the same. I gotta say, Mass Effect is in my top 5 all-time gaming IPs. Dead Space makes the top 10 if I had to sit there and rank them. It's something, again, haven't talked about because we haven't had Dead Space news for the long duration of the Geekiverse. Moving on. Point number 2. This is another nice moment for me. Get your thoughts in a second, John. Gotham Knights. We've got an October release date from Game Informer. Gotham Knights, the upcoming co-op action RPG that puts players behind the masks and cowls of Batgirl, Robin, Red Hood, and Nightwing, will be released this October. More specifically, it will hit PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC on October 25th, just in time for Halloween. Considering Gotham is probably a terrifying place to live, exploring it the week before Halloween sounds like a spooky treat. October 25th, is that happening?
Yeah, I was just busting your balls. I think it's totally happening. I don't think these WB studios have been sleeping on their projects for so long. I don't know if there was turmoil with production and they had to scrap some projects and stuff like that. If that's why everything took so long, I think whatever it is, they're confident in these dates. I think that they showed both of those games that they showed look pretty ready. I mean, we saw pretty much gameplay trailers at their reveals, which is not always the case. You kind of just see splash screens, or you see just a CGI trailer. Saw gameplay from both of them pretty much right away. I think that whenever they announce dates for either of these games, Suicide Squad or this one here, I think they're going to come. I'm confident we'll see this in October.
I do feel pretty good about that date, and it's funny. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. You get publishers who announce games way too early, and then it's okay, what happened? Like Elder Scrolls, right? Like Elder Scrolls 6. You and I both know that game was not coming for a while, but a lot of people don't. They see that and they're like, oh, this is coming within 2 years. Not going to happen. You got a company like WB, whether it's WB Montreal or Rocksteady, who's making Justice League, and they don't talk about it. They go dark for a number of years. The last game from Rocksteady, which was Batman Arkham Knight, was 2015. So by the time that new game comes out, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, we're talking at least 8 years, because that's slated to come next year at some point. So it's a tough balance. I think I lean towards what WB did. Let it sit. Don't talk about it. Let the hype build. And then when it finally gets here, typically it's a lot more exciting. That's just my take. Third on the list, we got some NPD numbers today. Got a little known title called Elden Ring. John, have you ever heard of that?
I have no idea. No.
All I know is it's a super, super hard game. Just kidding, folks. Everyone knows what's going on with Elden Ring. Anyway, Elden Ring, number 1 on the list, the highest selling non-Call of Duty game of the last 12 months. Takes a lot, as you see, to dethrone a Call of Duty game. And this is not a Batman game. This is not a very, so to speak, mainstream game, even though it's kind of transcended that. John, this is a very niche game that has grown into something a lot bigger than itself.
I would have never bet this it would happen. I would never have bet that a From Software game would find this type of mainstream media success, at least mainstream among gamers. Man, that's awesome. It's awesome. People have loved these games for years. People who love From Software games, and that group of people is clearly growing. You go on Twitch right now. I mean, I follow I'm not a huge Twitch guy, but I follow maybe couple dozen streamers. Everybody's playing Elden Ring. I go on Twitch. My homepage is just all of the people that I know that I follow are playing Elden Ring. You go to the browse section. It's always leading in views right now. it is killer. People are loving that game, and I'm super, super happy for them and for the people at From Software.
It's exciting to see, and I know you and I were both of the mindset that we wanted to wait till that game came out and watch other people stream it. At this point, do you have any interest in playing it?
I just know that there's a world where I could get into it. Any From Software game, I know that hook is there for me. I just am like afraid to I'm just anxious about diving in and like giving it the commitment that it deserves. I know it could, like we talked about my love for Cuphead and the way that I love how brutal that game was, and that hook of, failure and learning from your mistakes and finally overcoming something difficult. I know that hook is there for me in these From Software games. It's just, I just have anxiety about starting them for whatever reason. So it's possible. It's possible.
I tried once, and in terms of Soulsborne games, it was Bloodborne, and I was ready to go and popped it in. Lasted about 45 minutes of frustration, and I was like, this is not for me. I'm not good at it. I don't have the patience. There's no story that I can see that I will ever give any sort of crap about. There's no saving grace for me. That's not to say it's a bad game. It's a good game, objectively. Just, it's not for me. 45 minutes later, I uninstalled it right from my PS4. I was like, I'm not going to waste my time onto the next title. And I think I played BioShock the Collection, so it was fun. But yeah, for me, I'm not great at these high challenge video games, and I don't love endless open world games. Like, you've got to have a big hook or a big story for me to care about it. Like Horizon, like I care about that story now, and the gameplay, all of it's so good. It finds it strikes the right chord for me. Don't think Elden Ring is going to be there for me. Sorry, folks. Maybe one day, like Dark Souls 6 when that comes out, I'll find a way to that. Horizon, by the way, the number 2 on the list. It is the best launch month for a first party PS5 game to date. So that game's doing well. Of note on the list, you've got your typicals, you've got your Maddens, your Mario Karts, FIFA, etc. But 3, you've got Pokemon Legends Arceus. Awesome. Number 4, Dying Light 2, Stay Human. That is impressive. Really happy to see that game's doing well. That game took a long time to come out. It went through numerous delays by the year. I mean, 5 years ago, we were getting ready to get this released. And I'm really happy to see that it's out. It's doing well, not just critically, but also commercially. So,
is it on
bravo.
Sale yet? I bet you it's on sale already.
That I don't know, but happy that it is doing well nonetheless. Oh, let's see. Number 4 on the list. One of my favorite IPs. The newest PlayStation IP to be getting greenlit in terms of a live action TV series. God of War.
Yeah.
John, do the thing.
Boy.
There it is. Exclusive from, Deadline. PlayStation's flagship action-adventure franchise, God of War, is heading to television. Prime Video is in negotiations for a live-action TV series based on the hugely popular ancient mythology-themed game. So that's about all we know at this point. But we've got IP happening. Last of Us is happening. It's an exciting time for all of that. What's your reaction to this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, the PlayStation has taken their top 3 dogs right now, right? Maybe your most valuable IP with Uncharted, The Last of Us, and God of War. And I guess you got to even count Ratchet and Clank in that. Ratchet and Clank, they made that film, and that did pretty well. The reboot game of Ratchet and Clank was actually based on that movie. So they've been dabbling for a while. We know this Uncharted movie has been stuck in like movie hell for years and years and years. It was originally supposed to be Mark Wahlberg to play Nathan Drake, and he basically aged out of it. So they're finally hitting their stride, and they're getting the deals that they want. It seems like they're getting the right partners in place. I think HBO is obviously a perfect partner for a story like The Last of Us. Amazon makes some fantastic content too, so I think that that's going to be in good hands with God of War. We'll see. I mean, I just hope that they can do it justice. I'm curious to see where they start this story. Is it going to start with God of War 2018? Are they going to go right into that? Because that's really, when it hit its critical success, at least nowadays. Are they going to go back to the old hack and slash God of War with all the Greek gods and everything like that? Who knows? I would lean towards them starting kind of with the 2018 and telling that story, but remains to be seen. I'm interested. I will say I'm not jonesing for this one like I am like with The Last of Us. It's like The Last of Us TV show gets announced. If it would have been in a movie, it would have been the same thing. Can't wait for that. That's like up there with one of my most anticipated projects to come out now next year. would have been this year, but it got delayed. Super excited for The Last of Us. Love that property. I think it's going to translate well to a different medium. Whereas God of War, it's like, all right, you got to show me this one. I love God of War. That game was awesome, but part of what makes that for me is the gameplay, right? The story's great, but the gameplay is really what I'm there for. So I trust them. I'm excited, but I'm not jonesing for it,
Yeah, I understand that. I can respect it. I think for me, I want to hear more about it. Obviously, this is just kind of breaking this week, but I'd like to hear, what's going to be the direction. Are you going Norse? Are you going Greek? I would like to think, like you said, they stick closer to 2018 God of War, and Norse is huge right now, right? Even if from a superficial standpoint, you tie this to Marvel,
right,
with Loki and Thor,
like Loki's, yeah, of course.
If someone says, oh, so-and-so was going to play Loki, even if someone doesn't really know about it, they might be like, what do you mean someone's playing Loki, right? There's a little bit of name recognition there. Yep. So I think they've got a lot of potential. I'm really excited to see where more details come out. And I think either way, this will be something I sign up for, whenever that hits.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I trust them. I trust them to make decent decisions with these IPs, and if not just because of the way they treated them in the game space, right? They've just been so careful with their IP over the last 7-8 years. It's just like I trust PlayStation, and I trust PlayStation Studios.
Yeah, they're doing a good job so far. Last thing on the docket for us here, there was a state of play this week. So PlayStation's video kind of short segment session, they had a 20-minute video came out earlier this week. Just a few announcements, a few updates on things. Nothing that really moved the needle big time. They started off the show. John, just jump in if anything. There was anything you wanted to add to this. But Exo Primal, which is a new game from Capcom, which is kind of looks a little bit different. I gotta say, there's a game called the Dialfield Chronicle that is coming out. That is kind of, some people thought this looks a little bit like a Final Fantasy Tactics game, maybe mixed with a little bit of Fire Emblem. Thought that was, there's definitely a market for all these, just mostly not for me. Valkyrie Elysium was one of the bigger bits of the show. This is kind of an action RPG if you're not familiar with that series. I think probably the biggest news for John and I on the show is that Returnal is getting a free update. This game came out last spring for PS5 to critical acclaim. John, you played this, or at least a good chunk of it. And the update is called Ascension. It's going to add a co-op mode as well as a new area, which is a huge tower that you have to work your way up floor by floor. John, anything of note here that you got from this?
Yeah, the Returnal stuff's exciting. I'm happy to see Housemarque supporting that. Like you said, I did play that game for quite a bit. I probably played 15, 20 hours, and I really, really liked it. It was just difficult. It came down to the fact that it's a game that I know I can get good at, and I can get through. I think something else just came along, and I kind of fell off, and I tried to go back, and I'm like, okay, I really have to be in the groove, and I really have to commit the time to finish this game, because at least even back then there was no saving. Like you had to rely on just your PS5 suspend state to be able to stop a game session. So it was brutal. Really, really fun game. It was gorgeous. The gameplay was fun. It just it's a Metroidvania type game where it is Metroidvania style, but it's more of like a roguelike where you die and everything's gone. You start over, right? So you have to get to the final boss in one run, and those games can be brutal. And that's kind of what burnt me out, but it is really good. I like it.
What's funny is I was going to pick that up day one, and then the game that was too close that I decided to go with instead was Ratchet and Clank, because they came out about a month later. So that may be the game that interrupted it for you. It's so funny. You mentioned how when you die, you lose everything in this. There's so many funny videos out there right now for Elden Ring and clips. Someone was facing one of the bosses. They're all tough, right? To varying degrees. And they got killed by basically just this side character, this minion that had nothing to do with it. And they had one hit left on this boss. Of course, the player also had one hit, and then this character comes out of nowhere and takes him down. And I was dying laughing. I thought it was hysterical. I'm sure brutal. That person didn't think it was so funny, but I don't have the patience for those. I just have the patience to laugh at other people playing those. Ghostwire Tokyo. So we got a kind of a one last trailer for this coming out in about 10 days or so. Do you have any interest in this game that's coming from Bethesda here?
Yeah, not necessarily. It's so interesting. We followed this game for so long. It was announced at the same E3 that Deathloop was. It was like a very interesting splash to see two Bethesda games exclusive to PlayStation. Now even funnier, given the fact that Microsoft owns Bethesda. But no, nothing really about it's moving the needle for me. It's interesting. I can't wait to see what it ends up being, but I don't necessarily think it's for me.
I'm surprised at this point, like that I haven't made my decision. A lot of times this close to a release, I'm like, yeah, I'm getting it, or no, I'm not. This one, I want to see what reviews look like. I want to see what more of the gameplay looks like when people stream it. That will be more of a game time decision for me. But March 22nd, you can pick that up. Forspoken, this kind of came out the day before that. That was getting delayed. We got another trailer here that showed off a little bit more of gameplay when it came to combat. That's a game that totally fell off my radar, but there was some news with this week with that delay. And then another big game, we did get another look at Stranger of Paradise, which is a Final Fantasy Origin. That is coming out very soon. That's March 18th. So we got a lot of stuff that's just, on the horizon here. One thing I know a few friends it really hit big time was TMNT, the Cowabunga collection.
Oh, yeah.
So that is pretty sweet, I gotta say. This came out of left field for me. The collection includes 13 TMNT games from 8-bit and 16-bit consoles. It's a handheld to arcade classics. It'll be out later in 2022. You can read the full list of games right online. Just Google the release for it. That's going to come out for PS4, PS5, as well as Xbox Series consoles, PC, and Switch. Switch seems like a nice place.
It'd be a good fit for that. Yeah, it's my good friend in the chat, Big Cat Aaron, is a huge Turtles fan, the biggest that I know. So he's pumped about this. We have that video game group chat that used to be a part of until you got an Android phone and we booted you out. Somebody posted that. So I guess I didn't miss anything with that,
folks.
It is very true. I guess I didn't miss anything in that PlayStation Direct. And Aaron immediately posted the trailer. He's like, "Oh yes, you did," because he loves his Turtles. So happy for him.
Well, Aaron, I'm happy for you. Gigabash. Not much to say for me there. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, excuse me. This one is no release date? Thought there was release date. Trek to Yomi looked really interesting because there was a lot of Ghost of Tsushima vibes here. Take a look at that trailer again. That's Trek to Yomi, which is YOMI. Very different looking game, but the trailer that we got was mostly black and white. And immediately I was like, oh my gosh, is this a spinoff? Are we getting some sort of DLC, etc.? It is not samurai style game, much like Tsushima, but looks very interesting. That might be the game that I want to check out for everything that was shown here. Aaron, just in the chat. I love the enthusiasm. You are welcome. That's everything that we've got for this news week here on Busy Sticks. Again, the Geekiverse all gaming talk show. We tried things out on a Friday night here. Things have been awesome. We appreciate you tuning in. John, where can people find you on social media? And what can you tease for other content for the Geekiverse?
You find me right here at Disruptoid on everything. Right here. Read it and weep. At Disruptoid on basically every platform, gaming, social, anything like that. I'll be talking about baseball in a good way now because it's back. I'm so excited. And I will probably still be talking about how much I'm upset with Jack Eichel still. But other than that, for the Geekiverse, you can find us talking Star Wars with Star Wars Reviewed. We're cruising our way through that. We just finished Attack of the Clones. That was a fun episode. Getting to the climax of the prequel trilogy. Can't wait to talk about Revenge of the Sith. And we are also diving back into the MCU Reviewed. That was quite the on-taking of us to go through the entire MCU. We were doing like incredible for a while. We were hitting like every week for, I feel like we were like 13, 14 weeks in a row where we didn't miss a week, and that was super impressive, but life happens, so we've fallen off from that quite a bit, and turns out they just don't stop making those Marvel movies, so there's a lot of them, so we were never going to keep up. That was a losing battle from the start, but we're getting back to it, so we're planning to record our next episode, Captain Marvel, next week, so lots of movie reviews, stuff that we just love talking about here, the MCU and Star Wars, nothing but good stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've been sitting on my notes for Captain Marvel for some time now, so I can't wait to talk about that. Star Wars has been a blast. Like, that is a series I've just been dying to get through again, of course, but a series for the first time here on the Geekiverse. Can't wait to watch Revenge of the Sith. I'm so ready, especially after the Kenobi trailer and hearing the Heroes theme.
Dude,
Give me
it's
more.
gonna be so good, and I can't wait to get into the Disney stuff. Like, it's fun. I've not sat down and rewatched the entire Star Wars saga since all the Disney stuff has been out. So this is a treat.
Well, now is the time. Soon you can check out our Kenobi reaction. We went through and talked about the trailer that dropped yesterday, which was totally 2 days ago. 2 days ago, it was totally bonkers. I cannot wait for that series. May 25th, coming to Disney Plus. Me, you can find on social media. I am Brosaya. I've been a little more active lately. Thank you again, Jack Eichel. Man, we just gotta stop talking about this guy. But as John mentioned, we're going to talk about Star Wars and Marvel next week. We'll have a special guest for the MCU reviewed edition of Captain Marvel. Very excited about that. In terms of social media, we are everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at youtube.com/thegeekiverse. Here, if you're watching live at twitch.tv/thegeekiverse, and wherever you download podcasts, we are there. 26 shirts. I want to talk about them real quick. We just put in another big order here at the Geekiverse because we are big fans of 26 shirts. If you don't know what they are, go to 26shirts.com. They sell t-shirts. All these t-shirts are awesome. They're the Buffalo themed. They are Marvel, Star Wars. We've got some nice pop culture in there. What you can do to help your community, especially if you live in Western New York, even if you don't live in Western New York, pick up some of that merchandise. A portion of every sale goes to a family, an individual, or a charity that needs the funding. And to date, they have raised over $1.3 million that have gone directly to these charities, families, and individuals. We're good friends with Del Reed over at 26 Shirts. He's the founder. Sometimes he pops on our Marvel show. I think he's a little scared to jump on our Star Wars show, if I'm not lying.
Hey, we had some talk on Twitter. We had some talk on Twitter with him and Jer, so we'll see.
He doesn't want the truth smashed into him that I've threatened him with, which is that I'm going to turn him into a believer of The Last Jedi.
Oh boy.
So it's going to happen, folks. Anyway, I digress. 26shirts.com. Please be sure to go there. Tell a friend. Pick up some t-shirts there. You won't regret it. For us, you can help us in a number of ways. You can like and subscribe to all of our content. Tell a friend. And if you're able to, you can go to patreon.com/thegeekiverse. There are numerous levels of monetary functions that you can submit there. And all of it goes a really long way for us. We greatly appreciate you tuning in. For John, I'm Josiah. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you soon. Have a wonderful evening.